Edible Eugene of the Cascaded Sea Guild. Mike is also the executive director of Clement the Dragonfly, our permaculture guild. Mike, thank you much. And let's find Rob. Where you at, Rob? And Rob is Clement the Dragonfly, Washington. Rob, come on in.
Hi. So thank you for this opportunity to speak again. I really appreciate what everybody's doing and sharing what they have with others. And that's how we grow, right? Because simple thoughts heard out loud can shift the course of humanity. You know, we just had a fire convergence. And to me, fire is what builds the desire and so that we can inspire others. And if we are doing things in a different way than what everybody else is, we're either going to be seen as the crazy ones, or we're going to be seen as a way shower or a pathway provider, or somebody who's bringing awareness of options that have not yet been advertised to us by idols over television programming to the masses. And we have to see that some of the things that we're supporting in the world that we live in right now and today aren't natural. And Mike was just talking about how the localization of food is what's natural. And when we're shipping everything, it seems, from one side of the world to the other side of the world, and then complaining about a carbon footprint, we should recognize how our choices are affecting what's being supported. Do we gather our supplies, our day-to-day supplies, from the gross restore, you know, in a public domain supermarket, or do we gather our supplies from the source, you know, grocery stores, or this source, gathering from this source? I guess it sounds phonetically similar enough that we don't bother supporting, or we don't mind supporting that which isn't natural. But when we gather at the source for free, we start to build an abundance locally that we can share easily. And like what Mike was saying, I went to Earth Day event a few years ago, and I was talking with some of the educators from Central Washington University, and they guide a lot of the trends in what's being done with agriculture. And I talked with them. I said, we're poisoning the environment to kill the bugs that want to eat the food, and then we're also creating foods that the bugs don't want to eat. If a bug doesn't want to eat if a bug doesn't want to eat the food, I believe that there's a divine intelligence within that insect that can't be advertised into consuming something that isn't good for them. So one of the things they were talking about is, we talk about plastic waste, but yet one of the solutions that the universities are coming up with is to put a little plastic bag on every apple as it's growing. And I said, wow, isn't the bag preventing the sun from actually nourishing the fruit? And they said, well, yeah. So the first time we grew them, we didn't take the bags off until we were ready to harvest them, and the apples had no color. The peels had no color. And one of the things I've recognized too locally is we have some packaging warehouses here that I can pick up thousands of pounds of apples or pears or cherries or all sorts of products that aren't good enough for the shelf at the grocery store. And so the apples are a little too big or a little too small, or they have a blemish. But when I go to the grocery store, they're $3 a pound or more. Yet I'm picking up 3,000 pounds in the back of my truck to be used in composting. And I can't legally sell them. I can't legally even give them away as an edible product. But this is the amount of waste that we're dealing with, and this is in one area. This is I'm in the Yakima Valley here in Central Washington, and I'm working here at the Apocalyptic Ashram Hawks Haven, and this is a model of transformation of the landscape and also of the individual. I use permaculture um, for the basis of the landscape design. And the last few days has been fantastic. And I have some videos on my YouTube channel to show some of the spring melt that we're experiencing, and features that have never filled up before filled up, and they were overflowing their boundaries. And so I was able to divert that water onto areas farther away from those valleys. Luckily, my old backhoe, she wasn't afraid of the cold and ice and snow and everything, so helped me quite a bit with the excavation. Saving seeds, something that Michael also touched on. I mentioned
last time I was talking that you can't count, or you can count the number of seeds in an apple.
A seed. But when that seed is dried and placed into soil, given some water, the conditions in which it can grow, there's no way to count the number of apples in that seed. It's infinite. And that's the beauty of what nature provides to us. And in nature, everything is raw. And so I call it a natural raw path of healing, health, happiness, peace, and abundance that we're seeking here with the individuals. And we use yoga and permaculture as the foundation principles to that. The awareness of now and the awareness of how, yoga was originally learned by watching nature. That's why so many of the asanas are named after animals or expressions that you're going to see in nature. Nature can't be advertised away from what is natural, right? And that's where the beaver is who builds the healthy, hydrated landscapes where only erosion was present before. A cataclysmic event might bring land transformation changes in ways that we didn't anticipate. And when water starts flowing and rushing in a way that is destructive, that's when the beaver shows up. And the beaver introduces the meander to the erosion. He builds a dam and works his way like a wave pattern across the landscape to hold water to the land and to spread it out and to let it soak in and to create features that weren't existing that slow the water down. And when this happens, everyone thrives. We're not waiting for FedEx or UPS to deliver a case of water from a diesel-powered truck. We're catching the water as it falls from the sky and keeping it where it has fallen, as close as possible. The conservation districts that are supported by the government and the taxation of the people have been expediting the water from the mountains to the oceans for a long time. And I've been to some of their meetings, and I tried to remind them that that's not conservation of water. That's the opposite of that. But they're kind of set in their ways, it seems, in certain ways. And so until we have many voices, each expressing what we want to happen, there's just the one little person over in the corner isn't making much of a wave. So permaculture is the basis of our of localization. And in localization, for two of the primary things in our life are food and our authority. Right now we have somebody somewhere else dictating a lot of things in our life. And in that, we don't find efficiency, or accountability or transparency or affordability. It seems we have a lot of middlemen wasting the resources that could be placed directly on the solutions of the problems. We have many people acting like Chicken Little, and we have a lot of problems in the world that a lot of awareness is being created of. Luckily, there are solutions to the problems we face. They're just not yet popular. And that's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel called Free Will. If just 2 words, Free Will. And if you wanted to do a search on, if you typed in Free Will and Food Fight with the Goats, Hunger is for Profit, there's about a 40-minute video I made of building compost with all of the foods that should have been much cheaper at the grocery store so that they wouldn't have started rotting on the shelf. We've got a constant revolving door of foods coming from 1,500 miles away that are being processed before they're actually ripe, so that way they can ripen en route. Instead of ripening by the root, R-O-O-T, they're ripening en route, R-O-U-T-E, right? So we're using things that are phonetically similar, but we're not doing it with what is natural. And so when they're ripening en route, instead of by the root, they're rotting on the shelves. And when they rot on the shelves, they are not the prized produce. So people aren't going to buy that. And so they're quickly pulled from the shelf and they're put in a box or in a dumpster out back. So some of my friends and I, we pick up from these places and we feed animals, or we feed the soil, and we can't sell it or be offering it to other people because it is considered trash. But a lot of it I eat from. I mean, these things they're just not perfect anymore. You get that was the other thing. We're packaging our things in convenience. So we get 10 oranges from a bag, right? But if one of those oranges goes bad, they throw away the whole bag. We say one bad apple doesn't destroy the orchard. But when that bad apple is left within it, it does. It creates rot and it creates infestations of bugs. And we're doing things that aren't natural. And so we're suffering things because of that. When we align with nature and the divine design that the mother provides the elements for, and the Father provides the space and time to exist within, we have a coming together of intention and action and resources to manifest growth, oneness, and a divine accordance with everyone, everywhere. When we recognize that the other aspect of that localization is in authority, we stop looking for someone somewhere else to be the boss of us right here and right now. I have people here, even locally, that are trying to regulate me, yet they don't know what I'm doing. They don't hold the education or the intelligence of how nature works. They're only aware of the laws that have been made by somebody somewhere else, often lobbied by insurance companies and corporations for the benefit of their bottom dollar, right? How many digits can be stacked away in a bank account? Some of the things that we talk about with permaculture is the diversity in which our landscapes can be grown in. And when we start to see an insect problem, we have to recognize the solution. And the solution is to usually to plant plants that invite the predators to the pests. And there are other ways that we can use companion planting to keep pests away. We can spray DDT and Roundup type poisons in our environment, intending to kill the mosquitoes or the wasp or the things that we don't want swimming or flying around us at a picnic at our house. But we can also plant mint and lavender and marigold and all sorts of smelly plants like rosemary. And I'm sure somebody else with even more knowledge and fluidity of naming the diversity that can can invite in the predators or keep away pests is here and available to us. And maybe that'll be shared a little bit later. I'm touching base on a lot of topics here. And one of them is when I started off with the fire is building a desire to inspire. And one of the things that we can do with that is become that mentor in our local communities that helps people recognize their abilities to grow and to expand and support the things that will create a better tomorrow. And when we do that, we can really initiate change. It's like a pebble thrown into a still pond. The ripples reach in all directions. I've been lucky. I've had some really quality mentors in my life, and one gentleman in particular, he has accomplished a lot. I mean, just more than you think any like 70-year-old guy could do. In a lifetime of pictures and stories that you just tell for hours, days, right? And I asked him, I said, how have you done so much? Because I'm wow. I mean, I thought that I was doing a lot, but no, thank you. How do you do so much? And he says, well, I just work an hour a day. And I said, oh, bull, bull. That does not get what you've accomplished done. And he says, well, all right. So I picked the 3 or 4 things that I think are most important on the top of my to-do list. And I try to give each one of those an hour a day. And, and that keeps me, so I'm not bored with any one thing, but that hour a day at the end of a month, I've put close to 30 hours towards a project. And when you put 30 hours towards a project, there's quite a bit can get done. And being that we have 12 of those months every year, there's quite a bit you can accomplish. And he says it doesn't hurt that if after you put your hour in, and you're still motivated towards it, that hour turns into 3 or 10 or 12, right? Take a little break, take a little snack, maybe even take a little nap if you want. Because somebody somewhere else isn't telling you what to do. You know what to do best with your life. And if you don't know what is best to do with your life, there are places that you can go and people will tell you exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do it. But to assume that everybody needs that level of observation or supervision is wrong. And that's where in politics, we have the left versus the right, and we have the liberals versus the conservatives, and we have the up versus the down, and we have Coke versus Pepsi, and we have Chevy versus Ford, and we have one team versus the other team, and we have all of these sources of division, right? And one team is voting to push their will on another team all the time. And so the other team gets upset because they're being forced to support things that they don't believe in. And then 4 years goes by, and then the other team gets in control, and then they use their voting to push their will on other people. And then those people are upset that they're being forced to support the things that they don't want to support. By show of hands, who voluntarily supports war? Who is wanting the lack of accountability and transparency and efficiency that's presented in the current leadership that we have across the globe. You know, and there's some people that are doing things right, but it seems like the few. And then there becomes a military action that takes them out of power for too long. We've seen this. But yet we don't stand up. We don't stand together. We don't unify. And one thing that I believe that we can unify under is that we have to realize that in politics, there's really only two sides of the coin. You believe in self-ownership and a non-aggression principle because you recognize the self-ownership in other people. And that the only way that we should be supporting things is by our voluntary effort in the things that we feel are most important for us to support. There is another political belief, though. There's a belief, and we'll call that statism, that somebody somewhere else has the right to dictate and rule over your life, to spend the product of your labor. And when we're each being extracted from, yet there's middlemen in the middle of accomplishing the solutions, we become part of the problem because we're supporting something that isn't working with our energy. But when we recognize where our energy is best spent, and it's best spent locally, we can also create an abundance within ourselves because we don't have the inefficiencies of middlemen wasting our energy. And so when we see somebody in need, we don't have to be greedy. We can recognize that the abundance happens because Mother Nature provides. And Mother Nature provides perpetually. We don't have to grow enough lettuce right now to last us 1,000,000 years. You know, we don't have to have freeze-dried tomatoes that will can until the year 2040 because those tomatoes contain seeds. And so does the lettuce when it goes to seed, right? And when we harvest these seeds and we put them back in the ground and we repair our soil, instead of sending away all of our compostable waste to be thrown away somewhere else by someone else, we can put that into the soil and into the dirt right here where we live. And when we do this in the right ways, we can create a soil that is full of nutrients that is capable of growing our food locally. And one of the things that Dragonfly Clan is working towards is helping people in urban areas transform grass into gardens. And at least at the edges of your yard, we can share and we can grow. Let me see here. I've still got a little bit of time. Urban gardening can be the largest farm in the world, right? Because a little bit everywhere surely beats monoculture in one place somewhere. And shipping things everywhere, you know, that's the problem with monoculture is there's a lot of input required. Whereas with permaculture, yes, the yield of produce per acre is less. Typically is less. But the diversity keeps it going year round. And the diversity of it promotes to where we don't have as much energy input required. Once a permaculture landscape is shaped so it holds onto water, manages the water that falls, perhaps it's even been designed to promote condensation generation using rocks stacked up as raised bed gardens and depressions across the hillside that can capture the coldest air of the night. And then in the morning when the sun comes out again, it warms up the air and we're creating a condensation zone, a dew point zone that we're pulling the humidity right out of the air. And so like what Mike had mentioned here in central or in the well, I'm not considered Willamette Valley necessarily, but I'm north of that. It is a very abundant zone. But there are several months that we don't get rain that falls out of the sky. And so we have to irrigate. But when we've mulched the soil and we've put in these features, it takes a lot less. And with the diversity, we have a lot less with pest management. Um, right now in central Washington, there's a problem with the Japanese beetles. Well, I talked with the master gardeners at the last farmers market I attended to. Oh, that's the other thing. Are we buying from the farmers markets locally, or are we buying from the supermarket because that's what's popular, right? So, but I was talking with the local master gardeners program at the farmers market at a booth, and I asked them. I said, "Well, if roosters and chickens were being free ranged through the orchards in the spring, when the beetles are larvae in the soil, wouldn't that cause a reduction in the Japanese beetle infestation problem?" And it was like a light bulb just kicked off in their head. And they said, well, gosh, yeah, that makes sense. I said, it's perhaps even preferable than the amount of poisons being increased to combat a problem that can be solved with, with nature. You know, nature is wanting to help us, but when we think that we know better because of what we've learned in a university by somebody somewhere else for a fee instead of the universe for free, we suffer. So, and I think that I am coming up on, we got a few minutes. If there's any questions, I'd be open to answering those. A couple places you can catch me is Rob Leeming, ROBLEAMING on Facebook. And it's the one with the, I'm sitting on top of a rock and it's just a silhouette. It's that image. Or you can, my hashtags are #MaddMonk, MaddMonk_AAH for the apocalyptic Ostrom Hawkshaven, or Free Will Ministry _AAH. And that's where a lot of my work is shared with the permaculture and the local work that I'm doing, helping homeless to have shelter. We're also integrating earth integrated shelters into the landscape here at the Hawkshaven, to just create awareness of how we can turn trash into treasure, and how alchemy isn't just something of some magician in the past turning lead into gold. It's turning trash into treasure at every chance that we're offered. Is there anybody with any questions? I don't hear anybody.
Are you guys only operating in Washington currently?
Yes, for my ministry is very small. I'm helping a few people right now that are on the property, but most of the improvements and most of what I've done here is just a result of my savings from when I was a plumbing contractor and what I'm able to take care of with what I can gather. And I do have some help from the community. I put ads on Craigslist and they bring me branches and logs and leaves and food scraps and so cardboard, right? Tons of cardboard for sheet mulching, and so I mean there is some support from the community, and my goal is to grow and to incorporate landscapes that people can retreat to, have a place for tiny homes.
What town are you located in, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm just north of Yakima. I'm Washington. Yes, so I'm out in the desert. I'm about 15-minute drive from Yakima, so it's nice. It's not so far that we're away from airports or the ability of people coming to visit, but it is.
Grow up there.
Oh, great!
Yeah, I love Yakima. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
It's definitely different from when I grew up, but it's still a wonderful place.
Crime and stuff has kind of taken a foothold, but I chose to move here 23 years ago now, and I really believe that there's a lot of really great people in this valley, and when we come together in ways that matter and make sense, that we can be a model of transformation as a community or even a county for others.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Erica, come on in.
Would you put your Facebook information in the comments, please?
Yes, I'll have to get up close to my computer. I'll do that here as soon as the next person starts talking.
Erica, come on in, please.
Good morning, Rob. It's good to see you again, and thank you for everything that you're doing. You know, sometimes we think it has to be really significant, but what I've been seeing more and more of is the need to